You went to bed early, you got your full 7, maybe even 8 hours of sleep. You wake up and, well, within an hour, you're just totally exhausted again. By lunch, you can barely keep your eyes open. You grab a coffee, maybe an energy drink, and sure, it helps for a bit. But then that heavy, creeping exhaustion just comes right back. Sound familiar? Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're going to unpack the actual science behind constant fatigue. Because look, if you're always tired, your body is desperately trying to tell you something.
It's so frustrating, right? You put in the time in bed, but you get absolutely zero recovery. So here's the absolutely crucial point we need to start with. Constant fatigue is not a disease, and it definitely shouldn't just be accepted as your normal baseline state of modern existence. It's actually a vital physiological symptom. Think of it exactly like your car's check engine light flashing on the dashboard. When you feel tired all the time, it's not a sign of laziness. It's a loud, flashing signal that something isn't right and something is actively sabotaging your recovery. So our job today is to play medical detective and figure out what exactly is triggering that light.
Okay, let's jump into section 1, hidden sleep saboteurs, and why 8 hours sometimes just isn't enough.
We need to bust a massive myth right out of the gate. Most of us think sleep works pretty much exactly like plugging in a smartphone, right? You sleep 8 hours, the battery hits 100%, you unplug, and you're good to go. But actually, human physiology does not work like a lithium-ion battery. The reality is much more insidious. When you miss sleep, it doesn't just magically reset the next day. It actually builds up a compounding physiological debt.
To put that debt into perspective, let's look at the number 14. Imagine you're sleeping, say, 6 hours a night instead of your required 8. Okay, after one night, you might not notice a huge difference. But after a week, you've accumulated a sleep debt of around 14 lost hours. That is literally almost 2 entire nights of missing rest. Now, your brain can kind of compensate for this for a little while, but eventually, it simply can't. That debt absolutely crushes your reaction times, it completely degrades your memory, and your concentration just goes right out the window. And the truly frightening part? People get so used to carrying this massive debt around that they actually start to believe feeling this exhausted is totally normal.
But what if you are physically in bed for 8 hours, but your sleep is being constantly interrupted without you even knowing it? Well, that brings us to sleep apnea. This is a condition where your airway repeatedly becomes blocked and your breathing actually briefly stops. When this happens, your brain senses a life-threatening danger and just slams the panic button. It partially wakes you up just enough to take a breath. And this can happen literally hundreds of times a night. You probably won't remember these micro-awakenings, but your brain definitely does. You wake up feeling like you barely slept at all, often with morning headaches, loud snoring, or just overwhelming daytime sleepiness. The good news is it's highly treatable. The bad news? It goes completely undiagnosed way too often.
Moving right along to section 2, your body's fuel shortage, missing nutrients and minerals.
Sometimes the whole issue has absolutely nothing to do with your bed and everything to do with a physiological fuel shortage. Take hemoglobin, for example. It's the protein that carries oxygen around your body. Imagine trying to run a massive, bustling city, but you just don't have enough delivery trucks to bring food and supplies to the neighborhoods. Well, that is exactly what happens when you don't have enough iron. Iron is the raw material your body needs to build those hemoglobin delivery trucks. Without it, your muscles, your organs, and your brain simply do not receive the oxygen they need to function. The direct result? A profound sense of fatigue, weakness, shortness of breath, and sometimes even dizziness. It's basically a logistical failure at a cellular level.
And hey, it's not just iron either. Your body relies on dozens of vitamins just to keep the lights on. Vitamin B12 is absolutely crucial for keeping your nerves and blood cells healthy. Vitamin D is this incredible powerhouse supporting everything from bone health to immune function, and by the way, low levels are deeply associated with fatigue. Then you have folate, which is required for healthy red blood cell production. Now, let me be very clear, these are not magic energy pills. If your levels are totally normal, swallowing extra vitamins isn't going to suddenly turn you into a superhero. But if you are deficient in these specific areas, correcting that deficit makes a massive, life-altering difference to your daily energy.
Which brings us to section 3. Daily lifestyle energy drains, stress, sugar, and hydration.
So we've covered sleep saboteurs and fuel shortages, but what about the things we do every day? Let's talk about chronic stress. It's basically like leaving your car engine running all day long. A lot of people mistakenly believe that stress gives you energy, right? Like it keeps you pumped up and alert. In reality, chronic stress is incredibly exhausting. When you're constantly worrying, your brain rarely gets a chance to truly power down. Your muscles stay tense, your heart works harder, and your mind races, even when you're just trying to sleep. If you leave a car idling in the driveway all day, every day, eventually you're going to burn through the entire tank of gas.
Stress doesn't just affect your mood, it actively and aggressively consumes your physical energy reserves.
And this energy drain definitely applies to our diet, too. Have you ever eaten a massive, sugary breakfast and felt totally wiped out like an hour later? Well, here is the biological chain reaction of why that blood sugar roller coaster actually happens. Step 1. You consume a meal high in rapidly absorbed, highly processed carbohydrates. Step 2. Your blood sugar spikes really quickly. Step 3. Your body panics and dumps a bunch of insulin into your system to manage that sudden spike. And Step 4. The totally inevitable energy crash. So, instead of a nice, steady climb of energy throughout the day, highly processed diets force your body through these exhausting, sharp peaks and sudden, awful drops.
This next culprit is arguably the easiest one to overlook. Many people actually mistake thirst for fatigue. Even mild dehydration significantly impacts how you feel. Think about it. When you lack water, your overall blood volume drops. This forces your heart to work harder to pump oxygen everywhere. Your body becomes less efficient at regulating its temperature, and your brain just can't function at its best. You might feel sleepy, get a headache, or just struggle to concentrate. So before you just assume you need a nap, you might literally just need a glass of water to support your body's normal functions.
Okay, which brings us to the great deception of the modern workplace: caffeine. I know this surprises a lot of people, and you might not want to hear it, but we really need to face facts. Coffee doesn't actually create energy. I'll say that again. It does not create energy. It is incredibly effective at reducing the feeling of sleepiness, but the way it does this, it might actually be totally backfiring on you.
To understand why, we need to look at a chemical called adenosine. Adenosine naturally builds up in your brain the longer you stay awake. Think of it like a sleep pressure gauge. The more it builds, the sleepier you feel. Now, caffeine works by plugging into the exact same receptors in your brain that normally receive that adenosine. It basically acts like a bouncer at a club, blocking the adenosine from getting inside. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. Caffeine doesn't actually remove the adenosine. It just temporarily blinds your brain to it. That exhaustion-inducing chemical is still right there, just pooling up in the background waiting for its turn.
And that leads directly to the dreaded afternoon crash. When the caffeine finally wears off and those bouncers leave the doors, all that accumulated adenosine rushes into your brain's receptors all at once. The dam just completely breaks and you feel absolutely exhausted. If you try to fix this by drinking even more caffeine late in the day, well, it interferes with your sleep that night, making tomorrow's fatigue even worse. Then you drink more caffeine to cope, you sleep worse again, and boom, a vicious cycle of dependency is born.
Which leads us into Section 4, when to seek medical help and listening to your body. Now that we've mapped out the lifestyle and hidden physiological drains, we need to ask, when does chronic fatigue stop being a lifestyle issue and become a serious medical red flag? Look, everyone feels tired sometimes. That's perfectly normal. But if your fatigue lasts for weeks, if it's actively getting worse, or if it's disrupting your daily life, it is time to consult a doctor. This is especially urgent if your exhaustion is accompanied by red flag symptoms. Things like unexplained weight loss, chest pain, shortness of breath, a persistent fever, blood in your stool, or that severe snoring with daytime sleepiness we talked about earlier. Sometimes fatigue is just a byproduct of modern life, sure, but sometimes it is the very first clue your body gives you that a much larger medical event is happening. Please don't ignore it.
Which brings me to the biggest myth we really need to bust today: the totally toxic hustle culture mentality of wearing exhaustion as some kind of badge of honor. You hear it all the time, right? Oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead, or I'm a machine, I only need 5 hours. No, actually you don't. Your body isn't complaining for no reason. Fatigue is one of the most fundamental ways your body begs you for help. Trying to outstubborn your own biology or just ignoring your body's cries for help, that is never going to make the root cause magically disappear.
So let's quickly recap the hidden culprits we've investigated in this explainer. If you're constantly exhausted, you need to stop immediately assuming you're just lazy or getting older or not trying hard enough. Start auditing your habits. Could it be an undiagnosed sleep debt or sleep apnea? Are you suffering from an iron or specific vitamin deficiency? Is chronic stress just running your engine hot all day long? Are you riding that crazy blood sugar roller coaster from highly processed foods? Is it just dehydration masquerading as tiredness? Or maybe you're trapped in that vicious caffeine and adenosine cycle. The answers are right there if you're just willing to look for them.
Your body is remarkably good at sending signals. The real question is, are you actually listening? Being tired all the time should absolutely never become your definition of normal. So I want to leave you with this provocative thought to wrap things up. If you could figure this out, if you could wake up tomorrow feeling completely 100% refreshed, what would be the very first thing you'd do? Think about that for a second, and please start listening to your body. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.